She sent a dirty text to the billionaire Mafia boss by mistake. What he did next shocked her. The text was meant for her boyfriend. What Angelina didn't know was that her boyfriend James's phone wasn't with James anymore. The reply came in 3 words. "You're mine now." Angelina stared at the screen, while her pulse kicked against her throat. The cheap fridge hummed louder in the sudden quiet. She had sent the photo, black lace under a slipped robe, bare shoulders. A last-chance selfie meant to remind James what he kept ignoring. Rent was 3 weeks overdue. His promises never paid bills. Tonight was supposed to be different. The screen lit blue with a new line. Impressive photo. Her thumbs hit the glass too hard. "Who are you? Where is James?" The typing bubble appeared, vanished, returned. "Busy, paying a debt." She pushed off the counter because sitting made her feel smaller. Heat climbed her neck. The silk belt cut into her waist when she tightened it. "What debt?" "Put him on the phone." Angelina waited, tense, eyes fixed on the glass. The screen glowed blue again. "He owes me a lot." He offered a car, a watch, junk. Nothing of value. A pause followed, then the blue returned. Until... Now her chest tightened. A film of sweat gathered at her hairline. "That picture wasn't for you. It was a mistake." Another pulse of blue washed over her fingers. "I don't believe in accidents, and I don't make mistakes." The debt is settled. It snagged in her chest. "How did you even see that photo?" "I didn't send it to you." The light rose on the glass once more, colder this time. "What does it matter? I've seen you now. There's no going back." "You're mine." Her grip slipped. She wiped her palm on silk. The room felt an inch smaller. She could hear her own breathing and the low metronome tick from the hall. Across the city, Raphael Kane stood before a window that turned the streets into a glittering grid. James's cheap phone rested in his hand. The other hung loose at his side, with the relaxed stillness that made men nervous. The notification still showed on the cracked screen. Black lace, bare shoulders, green eyes that didn't know how to bow. A devilish half-smile touched his mouth. The scar in his brow lifted a fraction. He didn't raise his voice. He never had to. "Find her." His men straightened as if a wire had tightened. "Bring the cars." He pocketed James's phone and drew his own with the ease of a habit. "I'll claim what's mine." Back in the apartment, the phone buzzed again. "Be ready." Angelina stared, then shook her head once as if to clear a joke she didn't like. Part of her was scared. Part of her thought someone was messing with her. Maybe James had borrowed a phone. Maybe he was finally at the door. She typed, "Ready for what?" The reply slid onto the screen as if the answer had been waiting at the edge of the glass. For the door to open. She set her hand on the chain, then let it fall. "It's a prank," she whispered, building a world where it was still a prank. Or James, maybe James. She started moving because stillness felt like surrender. She crossed the living room twice, then again, bare feet soundless on dull wood. Honey-brown hair slid against her collar. Her green eyes caught in the dark TV screen and looked back with a steadier anger than she felt. She opened James's thread and typed, "If this is you, it isn't funny." Send. No read receipt. She called. Voicemail swallowed her name and beeped like a door that wouldn't unlock. "Pick up," she said to a line that didn't. She lifted the blind an inch. One black sedan eased to the curb. A second slid in behind it. A third sealed the block. Men in dark suits took positions without a word. Her phone buzzed. "Don't run." "You can't claim me," she typed. Heat beating the tremor from her hands. Then 3 soft knocks. Precise, measured. "James, is it you?" Her breath hitched. She checked the peephole, only darkness, someone standing too close. The same 3 knocks again, a shade firmer. She let out a small angry laugh. Of course he'd make a joke of it. She lifted the chain, turned the deadbolt, and cracked the door. He filled the frame. Tall, broad, a suit cut for power. Steel blue eyes swept her. Silk over black lace, the knot at her waist, the stubborn tilt of her chin. Then climbed back to her gaze with an overconfidence that read as certainty. Her breath snagged. He smiled, small and sure. "You offered yourself." "I accept." What are you even saying? Heat flared in her cheeks. Where's James? What kind of joke is this? Not a joke. His eyes didn't flicker. And James won't be coming to this door. Naive is gentler, he replied. He traded you to settle a debt, as I said before. Then who are you? Her knees wobbled. The hallway suddenly felt too narrow. He didn't blink. Raphael Kane. The reply came in a low, husky baritone. The man in charge here at starting tonight, your new boss. Air thinned. Angelina stepped back on instinct, turned for the bedroom as if there were a route through the wall, pivoted to the kitchen, then the hall again. A trapped line searching for a door that wasn't there. She tried the fire escape latch with fingers that suddenly felt borrowed. It stuck, of course it stuck. Don't, Raphael said, even as ever. She ran anyway, a quick slice past the table. For a heartbeat she had space. In the corridor, the woman in black shifted. The men on the stairs adjusted without a word. Raphael closed the distance like a decision. His arm locked around her hips with the certainty of a man who ends arguments. She kicked once, twice, breath ragged, hands striking his shoulder. He absorbed it, set her weight and lifted, clean, efficient over his shoulder, one hand securing her without bruising and without letting go. The world tipped. Her stomach dropped as the floor fell away. His forearm banded her thighs. His shoulder pressed her midriff. Silk rode up against warm fabric. Heat bled through his shirt. Controlled strength that didn't need to boast. She kicked into air. Her palms hit his back, solid and unmoving. His grip shifted, anchoring her. She hated that she noticed the care in it. Put me down. Her voice broke. Do you hear me? Down? You won't be hurt, he said, steady. James won't be either. That's not an arrangement. I didn't agree. Her hand clawed for the frame and slipped. They were already in the hall. The woman in the black suit, Elena, paced a step ahead, eyes on angles, not on drama. Clear, she said, and the stairwell opened. Outside, the air was colder and cleaner. 3 black sedans idled in a neat line. Doors opened at the second they were needed. Headlights drew pale bars across the street. Elena locked the apartment behind them and didn't look back. At the curb, Raphael set Angelina on her feet with a care that didn't erase the fact he had carried her. She staggered, steadied, green eyes bright with warning. I'm not going anywhere with you. You are, he answered, steel blue gaze fixed. And James stays alive because you are. A rear door opened. The engine waited. The city pretended not to watch. Angelina looked from the cars to Elena's stillness to the scar in his brow. Metal rose at the back of her throat. If I get in, I keep my phone. He nodded. You keep it. She drew a breath that hurt less than the last. Then this isn't over. Absolutely. A devilish half-smile curved Raphael Kane's mouth. It's the beginning, Angelina Hart. The passenger door shut, and the convoy slid into the flow of night. Streetlight moved in clean bands across the windshield. Elena took the front passenger seat, rear-view mirror angled to watch the back. The driver kept both hands on the wheel, indifferent to whatever happened behind him. Raphael opened the rear door and waited. In! Angelina hesitated on the curb, silk robe knotted over black lace, phone tight in her palm. The open door felt like a decision she couldn't unmake. She climbed in and pressed herself against the far window. He followed, filling the space beside her, tall, broad-shouldered, close enough that she felt the heat of him through silk. The door shut. The locks engaged with a soft click. He didn't crowd her. Didn't need to. The space between them was measured in inches, and every inch felt like his. She caught his reflection in the tinted glass, steel blue eyes steady, thin scar lifting one brow, mouth set in something close to amusement. His hand moved, slow, deliberate, 2 fingers lifting the edge of her robe where it had fallen open at her thigh. Not groping, verifying, his mouth tilted. Better than the picture. The slap arrived before thought did, a quick, clean crack against his cheek. She pulled her hand back and held his gaze. Keep your hands off me. I want to see James. Raphael leaned back, the sting already fading but the surprise lingering. She was smaller than his forearm, dressed in silk and defiance, and she'd struck him without hesitation. Most people apologized before the first slap landed. He studied her in the glass, green eyes bright with fury, honey brown hair falling loose, a mouth set in a line that would break before it bent. James had offered him junk. Then he'd stammered about his girlfriend, voice shaking, as if Raphael might actually want used collateral. He'd been ready to refuse. Then the photo arrived. Not just beautiful, he'd seen beautiful. This was something else. A woman daring the camera to see her while knowing it wouldn't. He decided in 5 seconds, now watching her jaw tighten. He wondered if 5 seconds had been long enough, or if he'd just bought himself the most expensive education of his life. A short laugh left him, not kind. You want the man who traded you to clear a balance? The scar caught Dashlight. If his debt's paid, he's already running. Men like that run on reflex. Where did you even find someone so useless? She struck again, harder. He caught her wrist mid-air, grip exact rather than cruel. His voice stayed even. Do that again, and this hand takes a long rest. Fear rose hot, colliding with anger. Where are you taking me? This is kidnapping. His tone didn't shift. Think whatever helps you breathe. I collected what I was owed. She hated how her voice split, then steadied. Are you going to sell me? Is that what you are? He smiled, not warmly. His gaze traveled, face silk knot, bare collarbone, then returned to her eyes. No, I don't sell what I claim. You're mine. We're going home. Her spine straightened against the seat. Your home is not my home. He let the words hang. For now. At home, we put it on paper. Your signature. A beat. You want James alive? Then you pay the debt by living with me. She straightened further. I have money. Tell me the number. I'll pay it. He laughed, clean and joyless. Is James worth real money to you? $500,000? She swallowed. 500,000? His tone went practical. Wires move fast at this hour. If you like, I'll give you an account now. Transfer the full amount and I'll set you down at the next corner. You can go home to your empty apartment and your excellent judgment. Her grip tightened on the phone. I don't have that much. He shifted, face visible in the rear view, scarred brow, steel blue eyes tracking her with the focus of a man who missed nothing. Good, because if you did, and if you gave it for him, I'd start to think you were truly foolish. He let silence settle, then continued with the flatness of facts. Your boyfriend lost $100,000 on poker in 3 nights, borrowed another $200 to chase it. When that disappeared, he came to me with a business proposal. Importing electronics, he had diagrams. Angelina's chest tightened. He told me it was medical bills. He cut through the protest. It was cards and cocaine and the kind of confidence that convinces stupid men they're visionaries. He paused. Add interest, collection costs, and the fee for lying to me. Now the number is 500. The truth landed like a slap she hadn't seen coming. She twisted her wrist. He released it deliberately, as if handing back a knife he expected her to keep. Her voice came steadier now. I want proof James is alive. His answer came flat. You'll get it. On my terms. She tried a different angle. And if I say stop, about touch, about anything that bothers me? He cut in without hesitation. I stop. I keep my word. Elena leaned forward just enough for her calm to register. 3 minutes. Entry is clear. Angelina kept her eyes on the glass because looking anywhere else might wobble. What exactly are you going to make me sign? He answered without inflection. Exactly what you're asking for now. No touch without consent. Your phone stays with you. Air when you want it. James alive. He let a beat pass like a lock turning. And one line that matters to me. She turned slightly toward him. What line? He didn't raise his voice. That you belong to me while you're under my roof. Her jaw set. I don't belong to anyone. His tone stayed level. You don't have to like the words. You only have to sign them. The cars turned under a pale stone canopy. A doorman practiced not seeing what didn't need to be seen. Brakes sighed. Doors opened at the correct second. Raphael stepped out first. Elena came around to Angelina's side and opened the door without touching her, simply making space. Angelina stayed seated 1 heartbeat longer than she needed to. You said paper. He held the door frame. Upstairs. Your terms and mine. In ink. She looked up at him. And if I don't sign? He held her gaze, steel blue and steady. Then we renegotiate. Debt stays open. James pays it with his life. And you don't leave this house. The night air cooled the heat on her cheek as she stepped out. The mansion rose before her, 3 stories of pale stone, tall windows glowing behind curtains, columns framing double doors that opened as they approached. Her apartment could fit in the entryway. Raphael's hand settled at her back, warm through the silk. He leaned in, voice a low whisper against her ear. Inside, Angelina. She climbed the wide steps, bare feet on stone worn smooth by decades. The doors opened from within. A woman in black waiting, silver-haired, expression neutral. The foyer stretched wider than her old apartment was long. Marble floors caught chandelier light and threw it back in soft pools. A curved staircase rose to the second floor, dark wood banister polished to a shine. Oil paintings lined walls that didn't need to explain their cost. Everything sat with the stillness of objects chosen once and never questioned again. Wealth didn't shout here, it whispered. The second-floor hallway was wide, quiet, lined with closed doors. He stopped at one near the end and opened it without knocking. The study smelled of leather and old books. Shelves climbed to the ceiling, spines organized with care. A desk sat by the window, papers already arranged. A pen placed with precision. The woman in black followed them in. Folder in hand, Raphael gestured to the chair opposite the desk. Before you sign, you hear him. Proof he's breathing. Angelina stayed standing, arms crossed over silk. Call him now. He pulled out a phone, cheap, dented, not his, and thumbed a contact, speaker. The line rang twice. A thin voice answered, familiar and shaky. Hello? Her chest tightened. James. His breath caught sharp on the other end. Angie, oh God, are you okay? They said if you cooperate, everything would... She cut through the panic he was performing. Did you sell me? Silence stretched long enough for her to hear his breathing change, from defensive to calculating. His voice came climbing, justifications already stacking. I didn't have a choice. He was going to kill me. What was I supposed to do? She kept her tone flat, surgical. To not trade me for poker debts you told me were medical bills. Desperation crept into his words now. The whine of a man who needed her to stop asking questions. It's temporary. 6 months in some mansion, it's basically, you're safe there, right? I'm the one sitting here not knowing if... Her voice went cold as the marble downstairs. If what, James? If I'm hurt, or if I'll actually sign so your debt disappears. The pause told her everything she needed to know. When he spoke again, his voice had gone smaller, uglier, stripped of pretense. My life was on the line, Angie. She stared at the phone in Raphael's hand. Not once had James asked if she was safe. Not once had he apologized. Just excuses and justifications, and the unspoken expectation that she'd carry his choices because she always had. Her voice came steady, final. We're done, James. This is the last thing I do for you. Silence on the other end. Then a small, desperate sound. The beginning of a protest she wouldn't hear. She looked at Raphael. Hang up. A faint smile touched his mouth. Barely there, almost invisible but unmistakable to anyone watching closely enough. He ended the call. She'd heard enough. Raphael set the phone aside and gestured to the desk with an open palm. The contract. She crossed the room and sat. The chair was leather worn smooth by use. The woman in black set 2 pages in front of her. Heavy paper, black ink, her name already typed at the top. Her eyes moved down the page, skimming fast at first, then slowing when the words registered as more than formality. No physical contact without explicit verbal consent from Angelina Hart. Personal mobile phone remains in possession of Angelina Hart at all times. Freedom of movement within and outside the residence, and with security escort. James Mitchell remains unharmed for the duration of this agreement. She turned to the second page, and her chest tightened. Angelina Hart agrees to reside at the primary residence of Raphael Kane for a minimum period of 6 months. During said residency, she is considered under the protection and ownership of Raphael Kane. Her finger stopped on the word, pressing the paper harder than necessary. Ownership. He leaned against the desk, arms crossed, watching her with the patience of a man who'd anticipated this exact moment. Paper requires language. She picked up the pen, heavy, expensive, the kind used for wills and deeds, and drew a single line through ownership. Above it, in her own hand, she wrote care. She looked up, daring him to argue. His mouth curved slightly, something close to approval. Care, I accept. She read the rest: termination clause, living arrangements, witness signature line. At the bottom, 2 lines waited. His signature already there, black and permanent. Hers empty. She picked up the pen again and let it hover over the line for 3 full seconds, while her pulse argued with her logic. The signature came in smooth strokes, her name clear and deliberate. She set the pen down and felt the weight of it settle somewhere behind her ribs. Not surrender, but something closer to decision made without apology. The woman in black witnessed with her own signature, collected the papers and left without a word. Raphael straightened from the desk. "Welcome home." She stood, legs steadier than she expected. "Where do I sleep?" He moved toward the door, already leading. "Guest room, east wing. Elena will show you. Diode locks from inside." Elena appeared in the hallway as if she'd been waiting just out of sight. Raphael turned back once, eyes holding hers with the kind of weight that expected to be remembered. "James stays breathing. Every day. I keep my word." She met his gaze without flinching. "Good night, Raphael." His voice came quieter than before. "Good night, Angelina." She followed Elena down corridors that turned twice, past doors she didn't ask about, until they stopped at one that opened onto a room with dark wood furniture, grey walls, and a bed facing a window that looked east toward dawn. Elena gestured to the closet with efficient calm. "Basics arrive at 7. Phone by the bed connects to the main house if you need anything." She nodded, voice steadier than her hands. "Thank you." Elena left without ceremony, the door clicking shut with a sound that somehow felt like permission rather than confinement. Angelina turned the lock and stood in the center of the room, letting the day catch up to her body all at once. She checked her phone, no calls, no texts, just the weight of a signature she couldn't unsign. She didn't want to go back. Not to the apartment, not to James, not to the version of herself who'd stayed small to stay safe. She crossed to the bed and lay down fully clothed, robe still knotted. Door still locked. Sleep came differently here, quieter. Without the weight of yesterday pressing on tomorrow, the night had stopped being an ending. It had learned to be a beginning. Angelina woke to silence that felt expensive. No street noise, no neighbors. Just the kind of quiet that came with distance and money. She checked her phone. The shop opened in 46 minutes. She pulled on jeans and a soft sweater, tied her hair back and stepped into a corridor where portraits watched without commenting. 2 large men in dark suits stood outside a double door in the north hall. She walked straight toward them, chin steady. "I need to speak with Raphael." Brows lifted a fraction. A glance passed between them. The one on the left rolled a shoulder. "The boss doesn't like being disturbed." A dry curve touched her mouth. "He isn't my boss." The latch turned. The door opened. White t-shirt. Not designer, just cotton that knew its job. Dark denim that sat low on his hips. Forearms that looked like discipline, not vanity. The thin scar lifted one brow and gave his face a permanent edge. Corridor light slanted across his shoulders and made the white brighter, the shadows sharper. Angelina's gaze caught where cotton stretched across his chest and stayed there longer than strategy allowed. 5 seconds, maybe 6, before she forced it back to his eyes. Heat crept up her neck. He leaned against the doorframe, voice lower than it had last night, rough in a way that suggested he hadn't been awake long. "Yes," she cleared her throat. "My shop opens in 30 minutes. He tipped his head toward the staircase and started walking. "Handled." She kept pace, steps sharper than marble deserved. "Handled how?" He descended 2 steps before answering. "Your landlord won't post another notice. You're moving. Corner lot. Better foot traffic. Utilities covered. My crew started at dawn." She cut in front and stopped him with her palms raised between them. "Who told you you could do that?" "It's my shop." Air left his nose in something close to a laugh. The shop that couldn't pay rent. Now it's rent-free. More customers, more sleep. That was the point. I didn't ask to be rescued. His glance fell to her white-knuckled grip on the phone and came back. "You didn't. It's leverage offered, not charity forced. Go see it. If you hate it, we undo it. Paper exists for that." Her brow furrowed. "You can undo it?" He nodded once, precise. "I can undo anything I do. Sometimes there's a cost." "I keep my word." He checked his watch. 2 days. It'll be ready. Her jaw set with the kind of stubborn that finds stone and grows around it. "I need it sooner." His tone didn't shift. I covered this week's orders and called your regulars. Closed for renovations, no missed weddings. You'll make deliveries with one of my men until keys change hands. Her shoulders squared. Your men don't belong in my shop. He continued down the stairs without pausing. They'll belong to the sidewalk. Eyes on the door, not on you. It wasn't the cage she feared. It wasn't freedom either. Her lips pressed together, then eased. He stopped at the landing and turned back. 8 o'clock dinner, dress for it. I care about food in my house. She stayed where she was. It's your house. His mouth curved slightly. It's our contract. He left her with the corridor and 2 statues who pretended not to breathe. At 7:50, a garment bag waited on the bed. Angelina unzipped it slowly. Black silk spilled into her hands, heavier than it looked. The kind of fabric that cost more per yard than her old rent. A clean column. A modest hem, a neckline that wasn't modest at all. She held it up. No tags, no size label. Just a dress that had been chosen for her body without asking permission. The shoes were worse. Black heels with a red sole she recognized from windows she'd never walked into. They fit perfectly, he knows my size. The thought should have felt invasive, it did. But it also felt like attention. And attention had a way of warming skin even when you didn't want it to. She showered, dried her hair until it fell in loose waves past her shoulders. The dress slid on like a second skin, silk against bare legs, cool at first, then body warm. The mirror showed her a version of herself she didn't recognize. Green eyes steadier than last night, shoulders squared, collarbones catching light the neckline had been designed to frame. She looked expensive. She looked kept. She hated how much she liked it. The foyer did what foyers do, it turned arrival into a choice. The dining room took over, a table for 12 that had chosen 2. Crystal set low to keep the light soft. Raphael stood by the head of the table in a black suit and crisp white shirt. No tie. Cufflinks caught candlelight like small oaths. He poured a narrow line of red. The wine breathed between them, dark fruit and something earthier. Leather maybe, or wet stone after rain. Angelina lifted the glass and let the rim rest against her bottom lip without drinking. Just feeling the cool crystal, Raphael watched her not drink the way some men watch women dance. He set his own glass down with deliberate care. Angelina Hart, landscape design. Your grandparents raised you. Your father left early. Your mother died when you were 12. His gaze held, unflinching but not cruel. I'm sorry. Her throat moved once. The apology mattered more than the data. How do you know all of that? His mouth curved as he traced the base of his wine glass. I did my research. Your grandfather has early dementia. Your grandmother lives with lung disease. If you want to visit on Sunday, we put it on the calendar and go. Her knees chose the chair. Sense agreed. Why are you this interested? He leaned back, shoulders settling into the posture of a man used to owning rooms. I look after what's mine. The house, the cars, the men who keep their word. And now you. Her fingers tightened around the stem. Then who are you? Someone I should fear. Someone I might love later. One brow lifted. The scar tugged. The corner of his mouth considered a smile and changed its mind. Possibly both. A staffer appeared at his shoulder and spoke in a low thread. Raphael listened. A muscle in his jaw set by a millimeter. He pushed his chair back smoothly. Excuse me. 5 minutes. His fingertip tapped the rim of her glass. Small, precise, almost a promise, and he stepped out. Angelina waited 3 beats, then stood and crossed to the half-open study door. An older woman's voice carried through, trembling, grateful, thick with an accent that reminded Angelina of her grandmother's kitchen. Mr. Kane, gracias, gracias. My Miguel, he graduate. Engineer now, like you say. A younger man's voice followed, quieter but steady. Thank you, sir. For everything. Raphael's response came lower than she'd heard it, gentler. Congratulations, Miguel. Your mother tells me you finished top of your class. The woman, Rosa, Angelina realized, spoke faster now, eager. And now, Mr. Kane, I bring him to you. He work for you now, pay back what we owe. Good worker, I promise. Raphael cut in, tone still soft but firm. No, Rosa, silence. Then the woman's confusion. No? But the money you give, the school, was a gift, not a loan. His voice carried the kind of patience that didn't need to repeat itself. Miguel doesn't owe me anything. Neither do you. Rosa's breath caught. But Mr. Kane, but how we repay, you already did. You raised a son who works hard and doesn't quit. That's payment enough. A pause, then his voice shifted to practical. Miguel, you studied structural engineering, yes? The young man answered, surprise clear. Yes, sir. Bridge design, primarily. Good, I know a firm downtown. They're expanding. I'll make a call tomorrow. The work will be legitimate. Contracts, city projects, the kind of thing that builds a career. Another pause. Not for me. For you? Angelina heard the scrape of a chair, footsteps, then Rosa's voice breaking. So you are a good man, Mr. Kane. Raphael's response was quiet, almost uncomfortable. I'm a practical one. Talented engineers shouldn't waste their time working for people like me. More gratitude, more thanks. Then footsteps retreating down a different hallway. Angelina stepped back from the door as Raphael emerged, jacket open now, top button undone. He caught her standing there and paused, one brow lifting slightly. She didn't pretend she hadn't been listening. Who was that? He crossed to the table and refilled his glass with deliberate movements. Someone I helped once. She returned to her seat, fingers finding the rim of her glass. You do that often? He moved closer, not crowding, just close enough that warmth registered between them. When it matters. Does that surprise you? She met his eyes over the crystal. Everything about you surprises me. The mansion refused to be quiet on command. Angelina lay on her back and watched the ceiling take its slow breaths. Every time she closed her eyes, Raphael's face slipped behind her eyelids. The neat mouth, the scar that made his brow look permanently decisive, the voice that never had to climb to land. He took you from your apartment. He bought your choices. Stop giving him rent-free space. The scolding didn't stick. She turned onto her side, pulled the pillow close and tried to breathe. But the memory of steel blue eyes made it feel like there was no air at all. Sleep finally loosened her shoulders, and the house snapped. A gunshot cracked the corridor. Shouted orders answered. Heavy boots struck marble. She jerked upright as the window starred, held for a beat, then burst. Safety film tore with a scream of plastic. A masked man hauled himself through the frame like night on a hinge. Her scream leapt before thought. He lunged. A gloved hand cut the distance. The door blew inward under a boot. Raphael filled the threshold, pistol already up, eyes cold as metal. One shot, low and exact. The intruder's thigh gave way and hit wood. A knife skittered across the boards and spun out. He threw words into the hall without looking away. Alive, we keep him breathing. I want a mouth, holster. 2 steps. He swept her up as if speed could be careful, one arm under her knees, the other around her shoulders. His breath came warm against her temple. Arms around my neck, eyes closed. Nothing touches you while I breathe. The mansion turned into angles and velocity, down the grand stairs. Mara's voice cut through, clipped, professional. 2 contained, East Wing. Leo's response came calm. Left corridor clear. South exit secured. A steel door in a service corridor opened on code and habit. Air changed. Sound dropped to a hum designed by engineers. Raphael set her on her feet. Panic room. Bed couch water comes. You don't open unless it's my voice and the code. Her balance argued with adrenaline. What about Elena? The others? His comm chirped. He listened once. Working. We hold the line upstairs. I'll be back. The steel sealed with finality. The room held a bed, a low sofa, a narrow desk, water-lined like a promise. She paced because stillness felt like surrender. Minutes stretched until they felt like wire pulled too thin. The lock released. Raphael stepped in with the steadiness of a man who had walked chaos to the curb. Clear for tonight. There was blood on his forearm, dark on skin. Her eyes went straight to it. You're hurt. He glanced down. Just a graze. She crossed to him and pointed at the chair. Sit. The medkit opened under her hands. Alcohol wipes, gauze, tape. The quiet religion of repair. Jacket off, shirt unbuttoned. Under the light, his arm and shoulder looked like a study. Muscle, heat, a line that needed closing. She cleaned in small, precise circles. What happened to I'm safe in your house? Windows, guns, none of it feels like safe. His gaze held her face. You are unhurt. That is what safe means when Dimitri rattles gates. Tape-bridged gauze. Her mouth kept moving because her heart refused to hold the weight alone. James was a disaster, and I kept forgiving until forgiveness started stealing from me. Now there's you and rules and men at doors. I'm a florist. I wanted a romance that didn't cost everything, and a life where I could stand on my own. What did I do to deserve this? His jaw tightened. You're not supposed to do anything you don't choose. But you are breathing. I kept that promise. He looked at her then, not at the wound but at her mouth, at the line of her jaw, at the pulse visible in her throat. His voice had dropped, rough at the edges. You talk too much, her brow furrowed. Excuse me? He leaned forward, closing the space. You talk and talk, and I'm trying very hard to behave, but you keep... He moved. One hand cupped her jaw, the other settled at her waist. He kissed her, firm, claiming, the kind that doesn't ask because it already knows. For 3 seconds, her brain went offline. Then she shoved at his chest, not hard, but clear. What do you think you're doing? He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes, breath still warm on her mouth. Shutting you up. It worked. She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped, because his gaze had drifted downward. She followed it, the black silk shorts, the matching camisole, thin straps, a neckline designed for sleeping alone. Her arms flew up to cover her chest. Oh my God, I was so scared I didn't even realize what I was wearing. His mouth curved, slow, devilish. I have no complaints. Her face burned. You... She grabbed a pillow and held it like a shield. You don't get to look at me like that without permission. He leaned back, but the smile didn't fade. You're right. I apologize for the kiss. I don't apologize for the view. She kept her voice neutral. Is it safe to leave? Are they gone? He reached for the tablet on the nightstand and studied the security feed. His mouth twitched, just once at the corner. He set it down. Not wise. We should stay until morning, for safety. She caught it, the satisfaction in his jaw, the fact that he was lying. The house is secure. He crossed to the bed and lay back. Probably, but I'm injured. I'm not sleeping upright on a couch. She stared at him. Fine, I'll take the couch. He folded his hands behind his head and closed his eyes. She grabbed a blanket and tried the couch. 5 minutes 10. Her neck protested. She kept her voice casual. Why are they here tonight? The Russians. His voice came without opening his eyes. We have a disagreement. I don't approve of their business. I interfered. They're returning the favor. She stood and paced. You're smart enough to do anything else. Why this life? Why this dangerous, illegal... His voice was tired. I was born into it. Family business. And you asked too many questions. She crossed her arms. Have you ever killed someone? He didn't open his eyes. I'm not answering that. Go to sleep. A few minutes passed in silence. She rose on tiptoe, crossed to the far edge of the bed, and sat carefully on the corner. She spoke quietly. I heard you earlier. With the woman and her son. You paid for his school. You didn't keep him as payment. Maybe you're not as bad as you want people to think. No response. He lay there, breathing even, seemingly asleep. She studied his face, the scar, the line of his jaw, the way his chest rose and fell. Slowly, carefully, she eased down onto the coverlet at the opposite edge, facing him, watching him. He looked asleep. Then suddenly he turned and pulled her into his arms. She gasped, caught off guard, heart pounding, breath coming fast. His touch burned through silk. He buried his face in her neck and began kissing the skin there. Slow, deliberate. His voice came low against her throat. If you say stop, I stop. Her voice was barely audible, caught between fear and want. Stop. But her body arched toward him, contradicting the word. He didn't stop. His mouth traveled to her jaw, then hovered near her lips. He whispered against them. If you want me to stop, I'll stop. She said nothing. Instead, she kissed him, answering with heat instead of words. His hands moved over silk, finding bare skin beneath. She pulled at his shirt. He helped, shrugging it off. Her camisole followed. His jeans. Her shorts. The treaty line they'd drawn dissolved under hands and mouths, a need that had been building since the contract was signed. He covered her body with his, solid, warm, real. When he pushed inside, she gasped, fingers digging into his shoulders. He moved with purpose. She met him with demand, no words. Just breath and heat and the sound of bodies finding rhythm. When she shattered, it was with his name on her lips and her nails in his back. He followed seconds later, groaning into her neck, both of them riding it out, tangled and breathless, no words after. No processing, just exhaustion pulling them under. His arm locked around her waist, her head on his shoulder. breathing sinking without trying. In a steel room built to outlast bad nights, two people who'd crossed a line fell asleep the way adults do when they've earned it. Deeply, without apology, wrapped in proof they'd both meant it. Morning found her on his chest. The room was quiet enough to hear his heartbeat, steady and unbothered, the kind of rhythm that tricks a body into trust. She drew in a breath and caught his scent. Soap, cotton, a trace of cedar. Her chest tightened with something she didn't want to name. Heat crept up her neck before logic could intervene. His arm tightened around her waist, not trapping, just holding. She felt him wake beneath her, breath-changing rhythm, chest rising deeper. His hand moved slowly up her spine, fingertips tracing vertebrae through thin fabric. His voice came rough with sleep. Stay. The word was a request, not a command. That made it worse. Her pulse kicked against her ribs, wanting and warning in the same beat. That's what made her pull away. She jerked from the circle of his arm and sat up too fast, sheets tangling around her legs. Her hands went to her face, pressing against closed eyes as if pressure could rewind the last 12 hours. The answer was written in muscle memory, and the scent of him still on her skin. She'd slept with the man who took her from her apartment. The categories her mind reached for, Stockholm Syndrome, desire, mistake, choice, felt too small to hold what had actually happened. A smile tried to pull at her mouth anyway. She killed it with her teeth pressed to her bottom lip. She swung her legs off the bed and reached for clothes scattered on the floor. The black silk slipped free from her shoulders. She pulled on jeans and a soft tee with fingers that wanted to shake and refused. Behind her, Raphael's eyes opened as if they had never closed. He watched the line of her spine, the quick knot she made of her hair, the way pride rearmored itself in under 10 seconds. He watched from the pillow, voice still low and deliberate. You rushed. I prefer you without the rush, and without the clothes. Her chin lifted a notch as she turned slightly. You used my fear. I was in shock. What we did was a mistake. A small, infuriating curve touched his mouth. Felt like exactly right to me. You keep forgetting the part where you're mine. She turned to face him fully, arms crossing over her chest. The contract says you don't touch me. He sat up, the sheet sliding to his waist, the bandage clean and white against warm skin. It says I don't touch you unless you want me to. Last night you wanted, very clearly. Color rose in her cheeks, angry and honest. We're done with this conversation. I'm going to work. He stood. The transition to command as simple as breath, already reaching for his clothes. Tomorrow. The shop isn't ready. Also, we took gunfire 3 hours ago. Walking out of this house today would be stupid. She shouldered her bag and crossed to the door, hand already on the handle. The inside of this house feels more dangerous. No one hurts me in a flower shop. He crossed to his shirt and began buttoning with the precision of a man who'd made his decision. They noticed you last night. That makes you a target. Elena stays with you today. His tone made the day into a box with no doors. He left her with it. The mansion tolerated footsteps when it liked the feet. Angelina let the corridors lead her, until a door opened on a study that shouldn't have belonged to a man who made violence behave. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, Tolstoy with a thumbed spine, Balzac with corners softened by time, Bach in clean notation on the piano ledge. She took down a copy of the Brothers Karamazov and found lines underlined, margins annotated in a neat, practical hand. God, he doesn't just own books. He reads them. Elena's voice came from the doorway, warm and terrible at noticing everything. You're awake. Are you all right? Angelina replaced the book and let her palm rest on the leather a second longer than necessary. Define all right. Elena stepped in, black suit without the threat, hair pinned in the way of someone who lives among decisions. Last night should have been easier than it was. I'm sorry it wasn't. Angelina turned, curiosity finally outrunning pride. Why are you here, Elena? In this house. With him. Elena's smile carried something Angelina hadn't seen before, pride mixed with affection. We're family. We're cousins. Angelina's hand stilled on the book spine. Cousins. Elena nodded toward the mansion's marble heart. This is the family business. And before you ask, yes, he's ruthless, disciplined, fluent in how the world works. She paused. But underneath, when it counts, mercy. Mara? He pulled her off the streets at 12. Leo was an addict the day they met. 10 years sober now. The scholarships no one sees. Those are his too. Angelina absorbed it in silence, rewriting the man piece by piece. Elena's voice softened. And women. Always around him. Look at him. But he doesn't let them stay, she smiled. Actually, until you. Something inside Angelina frowned and smiled at the same time. She was learning him in layers and wanted more, too much more. The study began to feel small. She straightened her shoulders. Take me to my shop. 10 minutes. I need to see it. Elena's expression shifted. Professional caution replacing warmth. Raphael asked you to stay in. Angelina met her eyes. Then we only drive by. I won't get out. Elena checked her phone, no reply. She glanced toward the hallway where Raphael's voice carried from somewhere deeper in the house. He's in a meeting. Silence breathed between them. Fine, we'll pass by and keep moving. On the other side of the river, Dmitry Karamazov rolled an unlit cigar between two fingers and smiled the way men do when they like their own jokes. His men stood in a loose U waiting for a shape to step into. He spoke soft as velvet over broken glass. If we want Kane to feel defeat, we don't aim at the man. We aim at what he thinks he owns. He looked over the city as if it belonged to him when it didn't. The woman in his house. Find her. Watch the mansion 24 hours. He cannot be everywhere. Leo drove like Patience with a plan. Elena sat in the back beside Angelina, eyes tracking mirrors, hands relaxed and ready. 12 kilometers brought them a different neighborhood. Better light, bigger windows, corners that didn't hoard shadows. Leo's chin barely moved. There. Angelina leaned forward and felt her chest catch. Where her 35 square meters had once tried to be enough, 100 clean meters now waited. Glass front, modern lines, warm wood, a ceiling high enough for hope to stand upright. Inside, 3 men in work shirts finished the last trim. Buckets, ladders. A jungle of green and color waiting to be arranged into a language only she spoke well. She breathed the word more than spoke it. Please, 2 minutes. I only want to look. Elena kept her eyes on the sidewalk. We said pass by. We don't stop. Leo eased the car to the curb anyway, scanning angles. 2 minutes. It's quiet. Angelina was out before resolve could harden. The bell over the door offered a polite note. Sawdust and eucalyptus made a good beginning. Proteas, bird of paradise. 3 kinds of orchids. Someone had stocked her future with the kind of confidence money buys and love arranges. She crossed to the proteas and ran her fingers over the tough petals. Waxy, resilient, nothing like roses. The eucalyptus sent up its sharp, clean scent when she brushed past. Bird of paradise stood at attention like soldiers made of orange and blue. Mine. This could actually be mine. The thought made her chest ache. Elena followed to the threshold, attention cutting the street into sectors. 2 minutes. In the car, Leo's gaze moved mirror to mirror, then across the street, then back. A van idled half a block up. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong plates. He reached for the radio on his shoulder. The shot came from the far corner, the crack slapping concrete and window in the same breath. Helena staggered, a dark bloom opening at her shoulder. Leo barked into the chaos. Down! His door flew open, weapon up, angle chosen. Angelina froze on instinct and then moved too late. 2 men spilled from the van as if poured. Hats low, faces up, stride already at a run. The workers inside dove for the back room. Glass rattled. Someone yelled into a phone that had never wanted this job. Elena gritted through pain, trying to rise on bad balance. Angelina, back! A second shot chewed brick above the door. Leo returned fire, clean, controlled, forcing the street to remember he existed. Hands were on her before she found the counter. A grip at her arm, another at her waist. The world lurched into motion that wasn't hers. She twisted hard enough to turn air into knives. Let me go! A fist tightened under her ribs. The street tilted and became van door darkness with rubber on metal. Elena hit the sidewalk on a knee and fired twice. Missed the plate, caught a tail light. Leo's car leapt forward in a snarl. A third man in the van leaned out with a short barrel and wrote a line of holes across Leo's hood. Tires screamed. The van lurched, recovered, and found a lane. Leo swore once, clean and quiet, and wrenched the wheel to follow. Eleanor pressed a hand to her own blood and reached for the radio. The bell over the shop door swung on its spring, then slowed, then stopped. On the glass, Angelina's reflection hung for a heartbeat. Green eyes wide, hair unpinned, mouth open on a word that would not help. And then the van took the corner fast enough to erase it. The call reached Raphael in a meeting with 6 men who controlled ports and pipelines. His phone lit silently on the table. Elena's name. Not a text. A call, he answered without excusing himself. Talk. Leo's voice came through, controlled, clipped, wrong. They took her. Dimitri's men. Van, no plates. Elena's hit, shoulder stable. Time in pursuit, but they're 3 blocks ahead, and Raphael was already standing. The room went silent. The 6 men watched him cross to the window, watched his shoulders pull tight, watched his free hand curl into a fist against the glass. When he spoke, his voice carried the kind of calm that precedes violence. Location. Leo rattled coordinates. He cut through the static. Fall back. Get Elena to the house doctor. He ended the call and turned to face 6 men who'd suddenly remembered they worked for him, not with him. Meeting's over. I have a woman to find. One of them, older, cautious, cleared his throat. Kane, if this is Dimitri... Raphael's gaze settled on him without blinking. Say it is. The older man shifted in his seat. Then maybe you negotiate... Raphael's smile was surgical. I don't negotiate for what's mine. I take it back, and then I make sure no one forgets the cost of touching it. He was out the door before anyone could argue. The day outside was too bright for this kind of news. The car slid to the curb on the second he arrived. Mara took the front seat, jaw tight. 2 men filled the middle row. Another pair closed the rear. Raphael got in, and the door settled like a decision. Mara's eyes stayed on the map that lived in her head. He'll try the river. Fast exit. Raphael watched the city unspool beyond the glass. He knows I know that. So he won't. He'll pick a block that looks like a trap I built for myself. The convoy flowed into traffic. Raphael listened with his face, absorbing short updates that arrived like stepping stones. A traffic camera caught a blue shape turning off a main road. A private lot logged an entry and no exit. A dead-end grid of old warehouses appeared on his screen and felt wrong in the way that tells certain men where to go. He spoke to the cabin without raising his voice. Perimeter. Quiet until we have to be loud. Mara acknowledged with a small nod and checked the magazine of her weapon as if it were a clock. Window? He glanced once at the scar in his brow, caught his own habit and lowered his hand. 40 minutes before they move her or move on her. They cut east. The river sulked to their right. Cranes waited like patient animals. The target block wore honest neglect. Faded numbers over steel doors. A loading dock with a broken lip. A security light that blinked the wrong rhythm. 2 of Raphael's men drifted left, 2 right. Leo called in angles from the second car. Mara slid to the shadow of the dock and raised 2 fingers. Motion inside, not many. Raphael drew breath and tasted old oil and concrete. Rust hung in the air like a memory of better days. Somewhere water dripped with the patience of stone. The auxiliary door answered with a sulky hinge when he tested it. Inside, the corridor stretched long and grey, full of places to think, and none of them good. The smell intensified. Stale air, motor oil, something sharper underneath that might have been fear, or might have been rats. Voices leaked from the big room at the end. Low, impatient, confident where they shouldn't be. Mara counted with her hand. 2, then 1, then go. They moved when her wrist did, not before. A side office gaped on the right with a metal chair and the smell of bad ideas. The main room opened like a throat. High girders, dust, a van slanted near center. 4 men. 1 by the stairs with a phone, 1 at the van. 2 near a chair. No Angelina in sight. Raphael's eyes mapped angles, exits, weapons. He didn't need words for his people to adjust. He borrowed the shadow of a forklift and swallowed himself in it. Mara flattened against crates and became vertical dark. The knife in the nearest man's hand flashed when it shouldn't have. Raphael stepped into the Mistake. Elbow, wrist, twist, steel gone, man folded. The second guard inhaled to shout and found Mara's gloved hand where a sound should be. Sleep came on time and without manners. The man at the stairs finally felt the wrongness. His hand went to his gun like he'd rehearsed the motion in a mirror, not in a room. Raphael's pistol lifted and fired a single short answer. The man dropped to a knee, leg wrecked, weapon spinning away. The last one ran. Leo's voice came calm through the comms, engine already turning. West! The chase peeled off like a page. Silence settled. Then a muffled thud sounded from behind the van. A chair leg scraping concrete. Breath fighting cloth. Raphael moved before the sound finished. He rounded the bumper and stopped. She was there. Alive. bound to a chair with zip ties cutting into her wrists. Duct tape over her mouth, hair falling loose around her face. But her eyes, green and blazing, found his immediately and held, not pleading. Not grateful, furious. Something in his chest loosened and tightened at the same time. He crossed to her in 3 strides, holstered his weapon, and dropped to one knee. His hands moved to the tape first, peeling it away slowly enough not to tear skin. His jaw was set tight enough to ache. She drew air like it owed her, eyes never leaving his face. His knife made short work of the zip ties. The moment her hands were free, she rubbed her wrists where red marks promised bruises, and met his gaze with a look that could have cut glass. Her voice came raw, not small. "You're late," his mouth tilted half a degree. "Traffic." Mara's voice softened as it reached them from across the room. "We're clear." One glance at the ruined leg confirmed the man by the stairs wouldn't be a problem soon. Distant tires barked and faded. Leo was shepherding trouble away from the exits. Raphael stood and offered his hand without touching. "Up." She used it like a tool, not a leash, and stood on legs that remembered too much adrenaline. She straightened her shoulders. "I can walk." He studied her face for half a second. "I know." He turned her toward daylight and kept his attention on every place danger might pretend to be finished. They crossed the big room like people who meant to leave it. The van watched them go with both doors open. The warehouse door gave up the outside with a gust of wind that tasted cleaner than what lay behind. Across the block, a dark sedan rolled to a stop. Elena stepped out, shoulder-bandaged, arm in a makeshift sling, face pale but determined. Her eyes met Angelina's through the distance. Angelina's chest tightened. "Elena." Elena shook her head once, the motion careful around the pain. "Later, get her home." Angelina paused where sun met shadow and looked up because she needed one fixed point. Her voice came low. "Don't tell me I'm safe." "Not today." Raphael let the sentence find its place. "You're not safe. You're with me." Mara flashed the all clear and angled to cover. Leo swung the car closer with a smooth arc that left room to change plans. No sirens, no theater. Just motion in the right direction. Raphael opened the rear door and stood back. Angelina climbed in with her spine straight and her jaw set to its new position. He followed and shut the car on a quiet that knew how to hold secrets. Leo checked the mirror, meeting Raphael's eyes without needing to speak the rest. "Home?" Raphael's gaze stayed on Angelina's profile. "For now." The block shrank behind them and became weather again. Neither of them reached for the other. The space between them carried more truth than words would have honored. The silence in the car was different from the silence in the warehouse. This one carried weight, unspoken things that didn't need translation. Raphael's gaze kept finding her in the window's reflection. The marks on her wrists, the stubborn set of her jaw, the way she held herself together with the same determination she'd used to tell him he was late. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She waited. He didn't know if that made him proud or angry. Both, maybe. Angelina watched the city blur past and felt the adrenaline drain in waves. Her hands wanted to shake. She locked them in her lap. Her breath wanted to hitch. She counted it back to steady. She could feel him watching her. Could feel the space between them on the seat. 6 inches that felt like a treaty they'd both signed, and both wanted to break. She didn't reach for him. He didn't reach for her. But when the car took a sharp turn and momentum pushed her closer, his hand settled at her elbow, brief, steadying, then gone. Not possession, just presence. She didn't pull away. The mansion and everything it meant waited with steel in its doors and paper on a table. Ahead, the river slid past, and Angelina didn't ask why the scent of cedar had been the first thing she noticed when she woke that morning. No one mentioned it. The car didn't need them to. The road already knew where this was going next. Raphael carried her through the front doors, one arm under her knees, the other around her back. She weighed less than she should. Adrenaline and fear had burned through everything extra. Her head rested against his shoulder, not by choice. Just exhaustion finding the nearest solid thing. He felt every place her body made contact with his, hip, ribs, the curve of her spine. Warm, alive, his. The mansion's lights softened as they passed. He climbed the stairs without breaking stride. Jaw set tight enough to ache. In his room, his bed, his linen, his air. He set her down like she was made of something that could shatter if he let go wrong. Wrist marks flamed where tape had bitten. Her knee was raw. Heat ran under her skin like a low fire. He crossed to the bathroom, already stripping the counter of glass jars and cologne, already opening the hidden panel with the medkit. Bathroom. His voice came low, more command than invitation. Alcohol, saline, steri-strips, the quiet liturgy of repair. He knelt in front of her and cleaned the wrist marks first. Gentle, methodical, his fingers steady even when hers weren't. The alcohol stung. She hissed softly. His hand paused. Her voice was small but firm. Keep going, he did. Cleaned the raw skin on her knee next. Dabbed saline on a scrape at her temple she probably didn't know she had. His jaw stayed locked the entire time, as if talking would break whatever kept his hands this careful. When he finished, he didn't stand. Just stayed there on his knees looking at the damage. The words came out lower than he meant. I failed you. I should have kept them from touching you. Her fingers found his forearm holding more than skin. Don't leave me. The whisper carried weight, tears unshed, but voice steady anyway. I feel safe when you're here. He drew a breath that threatened to shake. I pulled you out of your safe life and into mine. His thumb swept gently across a red welt. And you feel safe with me? Green eyes lifted to meet his. Right now? Yes, he kissed her, soft, reverent, nothing to prove. His mouth tasted of cedar and restraint. His hand stroked her hair like a promise he wasn't sure he deserved to make. You care, Kane. Care is a lever people use. Care paints a target. Keep your distance or she bleeds for your lesson. He taped the last strip and checked the knee again, too thorough by half. Fever brushed her cheeks. He set a cool cloth there and didn't move until her eyes slowed. Her lashes grew heavy. Stay. He stood and crossed to the chair by the window. I will. He sat there instead of taking the bed. When she drifted, he kept watch, counting exits, counting breaths, counting the ways this could go wrong and still choosing the room. Dawn drew a pale line across the curtains. He stood without noise and covered her to the collarbone. At the door, he looked back once, jaw tight. In the corridor, Elena waited, hair pinned, face made of steel and sleep. He kept his voice level. Watch her. Keep the house small. Elena studied his face, the shadows under his eyes, the set of his shoulders. She'll be all right. Raphael left before the son understood it had a job. He didn't come back that night. Or the next. A week folded over on itself. Corners worn where hands worry at paper. Angelina healed. The fever vanished. The knee accepted a bandage, the welts faded to angry pink, then to memory. The mansion learned her steps. She found the back garden on day 2 and claimed it by instinct. Terraces that had been curated into silence. Beds that needed a hand rather than a budget. The soil was good. Rich and dark when she dug her fingers in, still damp from morning watering. Roses that had been decorative started acting like they wanted to live once she pruned them back to honest wood. Mara brought coffee on day 3 and leaned on the rail, watching. You know what you're doing? Angelina tucked a loose strand behind her ear. Plants don't lie. You feed them, they grow. You ignore them, they die. It's simple. Unlike people. Yeah, unlike people. By day 5, the gardeners asked her opinion. By day 6, they followed it. The cook, Maria, 60 and suspicious of everyone, left a plate of still warm empanadas on the garden table with no note. Angelina ate them slowly, tasting acceptance with the spice. At night, she lay alone in the guest room and told herself to be angry. Anger didn't always stick. Memory did. The memory of his mouth. The memory of how he'd knelt to tend her wounds. The memory of I failed you spoken like a vow. She called him twice, no answer. Messages delivered, never read. She tried not to care and failed. On the 7th night, a shadow at the threshold. Raphael stood in the doorway of the guest room and watched her sleep. She'd kicked off half the blanket, one leg bare to the thigh, the bandage on her knee slightly crooked. Her hair spilled across his pillow. When had she moved to his room? Like proof of a claim he hadn't granted. His hands stayed in his pockets because that was the only place they couldn't reach. She looked younger in sleep. Softer. The stubborn line of her jaw had relaxed. Her mouth was parted slightly, breath coming slow and even. Beautiful. The word arrived without permission. Dangerous. That one came right after. He crossed to the bed, silent, controlled, and stopped at the edge. Close enough to smell the faint scent of garden soil and soap. Close enough to see the fading marks on her wrists where tape had bitten. His fault. His world. His consequences written on her skin. His fingers twitched toward the crooked bandage. He forced them still. Touch her and you won't stop. Touch her and she becomes the lever they use. Touch her and she bleeds for your choices. He watched her for 5 minutes, then 10. The room was quiet enough to hear the second hand on the clock, quiet enough to hear his own heart betray him. Then he turned and left before want could outweigh sense. Elena waited in the study, a file closed under her palm. She took him in, creased shirt, eyes that hadn't slept, jaw locked. Her voice came flat, observational. You're avoiding her. You've been avoiding the house. He poured nothing and stared at the empty glass anyway. Silence hung like a rebuke. Elena moved closer, voice losing every ornament. Are you in love with her? His hand froze on the empty glass. The muscle in his jaw ticked once, twice, then locked. He looked at the window, not her, as if the city could answer what he couldn't. The silence stretched long enough to become an answer. Elena's shoulders dropped slightly. Not defeat, disappointment. Raphael, he turned, heat at the edges. Keep her away from me. It's safer, she didn't blink. Then let her go. Cancel the contract. The word came fast, sharp, reflexive. No. Elena stepped into his line of sight, forcing his eyes to find hers. Listen to yourself. Keep her close, keep her far. That's a child gripping a toy he's afraid to break. She is not a trophy. She is kind. She works. She brought the garden back to life in 4 days. She makes people in this house better just by being in it. He said nothing. The quiet went heavy. Elena's voice softened but didn't yield. You look at her and the world narrows. But while you watch from a distance to soothe yourself, you steal her chance at an ordinary joy. Someone her age, a warm kitchen, a life that doesn't require guards at doors. That's not protection. That's selfish. The word landed and stayed. He didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He didn't leave. His voice returned to ice when it finally came. Let me handle it. In my way. Elena studied him for a long beat and set the file down between them like a line. Your way cost her blood last week. Pick a new way. He held her gaze, steel blue, unblinking, and the room felt like a mirror he didn't ask for. Then he turned to the window, to the city, to the one thing big enough to hold him when he couldn't hold himself. Elena exhaled and left him with it. Morning made the garden shine. Angelina watered the new lilies and pinched brown from a hydrangea's edge. Mara lounged nearby, boots crossed, pretending shade mattered more than gossip. Her mouth quirked as she watched. You look less haunted. Angelina straightened, brushing soil from her hands. Gardens forgive faster than people. Or maybe they just don't lie. Mara tipped her chin toward the house. He'll come back. Pride found its place again, even if it wobbled. I'm not waiting by a door. Mara's approval came quick and real. Good, but maybe leave the door unlocked. Angelina snorted despite herself. The sound carried farther than she meant, and startled a pair of sparrows into flight. At the window of his office, Raphael stood still, eyes on the city but mind elsewhere. Her laugh came from memory, unguarded, real. The kind of sound that didn't belong in a life like his. Elena's words circled like hawks. Selfish. Your way cost her blood. He could live with the verdict, but not with the image of that van door closing on her face. His hand went to his phone. Her name stared back at him from the screen. He didn't call. He reached for his coat instead. Dmitri wanted to test what belonged to him. Fine, let him. Tonight the city would remember why no one touched Raphael Keynes and walked away whole. This ended now. One way or another. 1 month changed the shape of her days. The shop opened on time each morning. Glass gleaming, flowers standing like a chorus. Customers learned her name. 2 men in plain suits learned the sidewalk, and did not pretend they were anything but guards. Every bouquet she tied carried the same stubborn thought. He's gone. Every reflection in the window tried to be his. The nausea had started 10 days ago. Subtle at first, just morning queasiness she blamed on stress, then stronger. 3 days ago she'd barely made it to the bathroom before her stomach rebelled. Yesterday morning, she'd taken the test, 2 pink lines, clear, undeniable. She'd stared at them for 10 minutes, alone in her bathroom at the mansion, and felt her entire world tilt on its axis. 5 weeks. Raphael's child. He didn't know. Couldn't know. Not while he was busy pretending distance was safer than love. By night, the mansion felt too large. She stopped listening for his step and discovered she couldn't stop smelling cedar when she folded towels. The realization landed quietly and didn't move. I'm in love with a man who vanished. Elena entered the shop near closing with coffee and news. She set the cup on the counter with deliberate care. Her voice came flat, factual. Dimitri's finished. 2 days ago. Raphael handled it, quietly, permanently. Angelina's hands stilled on the roses she'd been arranging. Handled it how? Elena met her eyes without flinching. The way he handles things that threaten what's his. Dimitri won't be a problem again, for anyone. The weight Angelina hadn't known she'd been carrying lifted slightly. Then why hasn't he come back? Eleanor's expression softened by a fraction. Because he thinks distance keeps you safe. He's wrong. Something in Angelina's chest tightened, not fear, decision. Then I'll remind him. Anger gave her a kind of courage. She went upstairs that evening, pulled a small suitcase from the closet and packed like a woman writing a sentence. No one else would edit. When she reached the foyer, the guards shifted to block the door. Elena arrived on the second beat, heels unhurried, gaze measuring. Angelina stepped close enough to be heard and not echoed. Let me go home, please. Elena's voice stayed calm, more observation than judgment. You know you can't. Angelina moved closer, voice barely controlled. He's ignoring me. He made me fall, then disappeared. I need him to come to me. If I stay, he won't. Elena studied her a long moment. No lecture, no math, just a decision. A small tilt of her head sent the guards 3 paces back. She spoke to the air without looking away from Angelina. Taxi, and a tail at a respectful distance. Angelina breathed once, grateful and stubborn at the same time, and stepped into the night. Her old apartment had been cleaned while she wasn't looking. Stacked mail wore paid stamps like quiet apologies. The fridge hummed a steady, ordinary hum. She crossed to the window and checked the street. A black SUV idled where a neighbor's car used to fight for space. No one knocked. No one called. She showered, steam erasing the last month for the length of a song, then opened the drawer where she kept the parts of herself she hadn't used since the night everything changed. Black lace. Bare shoulders. A woman in a mirror who knew exactly what she was doing and why. She took the photo without flinching, chin lifted, eyes direct, one hand resting at her collarbone where his mouth had learned to linger. The angle showed intention. The lace showed invitation. The expression showed something more dangerous. A woman done waiting. She typed what she meant to write. Not waiting for you at the house. Contract cancelled. The message went to the number that had taught her about danger and honesty on the same day. She hit send and set the phone down on the counter. 3 minutes later, the knock arrived, firm, familiar, without hesitation. She opened the door because she had invited the storm. Raphael filled the doorway same as ever. Suit dark. Eyes steel blue, jaw rougher than the last time she'd seen it. The room changed temperature around him. His voice came low enough to carry weight. I told you you're mine. Which part confused you? She met him halfway without answering. Show me. The kiss landed like recognition, fast, deep, inevitable, and then slowed into something that burned smarter. He pressed her back against the inside of the door. Her fingers hooked his lapels and held. Breath mixed. Heat found old maps. The apartment forgot it had ever been lonely. When they finally broke for air, her forehead stayed against his. His thumb traced the damp curve of her lower lip, as if learning it again. They moved to the couch without ceremony. He shed his jacket. She pulled him down. The lace she'd chosen for strategy became permission granted. His mouth found her neck, her collarbone, the places that made her breath hitch. Her hands mapped muscle and heat beneath cotton, learning him again with touch instead of memory. When he lifted her onto his lap, she went willingly, legs bracketing his hips, silk riding high, the last distance between them dissolving under hands that knew where to go and how to ask. They came together with the urgency of people who'd been holding back too long, his body covering hers when they shifted horizontal, her legs wrapping tight, both of them gasping when he pushed inside. No slow, no careful, just heat and friction, and the sound of her saying his name like it was the only word she remembered. He moved with purpose. She met him with demand. When she shattered, it was with her nails in his shoulders and her voice breaking on a cry. He followed seconds later, groaning into her neck. Both of them riding it out tangled and breathless and too spent to pretend it hadn't been worth the wait. Later, she lay against his chest on the couch and listened to a heartbeat that never needed to brag. He looked down like a man studying the one variable he'd never solved. His words came shaped as if they cost. Control is what makes me strong. With you, I lose it. Her smile held no victory. Then stop pretending it's a weakness. He drew a breath that carried weight. I'm in love with you. It scares me. She lifted to meet his eyes fully. If you're afraid of love, you don't get to call me yours. He stood without the armor of an argument and reached for his shirt. The move hurt him. She saw it cross his face before he could hide it. He turned his back to button the shirt. The contract is over. Your debt is paid. You're free. On her cheeks, tears went warm and quiet. She inhaled, found steel where softness lived, and chose her line. Her voice steadied as she spoke. Then take my contract. I'll be yours, we'll live together. But you pull out of the worst of it. No more work that paints bullseyes on your chest. He pivoted. Surprise unguarded for once. If I don't sign? She set a hand on her stomach. Not dramatic, just true. Then our child and I disappear somewhere you'll never find. Everything in him went still. He crossed the room in 2 steps. The word failed. She nodded, crying and smiling like a person who had decided to live. Pregnant. 5 weeks. He wrapped her in both arms, and the kiss this time tasted like a vow he hadn't known he could make. His hands framed her face, then slid to her shoulders, then settled at her waist as if trying to hold every part of her at once. His mouth found her hair, her temple, the corner of her smile. You think I can let you go? I stayed away because distance looked like safety. It wasn't. I protect what's mine, you and the life you're carrying. She framed his face with both hands and closed the last inch again. Then be brave in the right direction. He rested his forehead to hers, eyes closing for a moment. I will. We do this on paper. We do this in public. And we do this with me choosing different fights. Her eyes held his. One more thing. We do this together. The word fit him like something tailored. Together. 1 month changed the shape of her days. The shop opened on time each morning. Glass gleaming, flowers standing like a chorus. Customers learned her name. 2 men in plain suits learned the sidewalk and did not pretend they were anything but guards. Every bouquet she tied carried the same stubborn thought. He's gone. Every reflection in the window tried to be his. The nausea had started 10 days ago. Subtle at first, just morning queasiness she blamed on stress, then stronger. 3 days ago, she'd barely made it to the bathroom before her stomach rebelled. Yesterday morning, she'd taken the test, 2 pink lines, clear, undeniable. She'd stared at them for 10 minutes, alone in her bathroom at the mansion, and felt her entire world tilt on its axis. 5 weeks. Raphael's child. He didn't know. Couldn't know. Not while he was busy pretending distance was safer than love. By night, the mansion felt too large. She stopped listening for his step and discovered she couldn't stop smelling cedar when she folded towels. The realization landed quietly and didn't move. I'm in love with a man who vanished. Elena entered the shop near closing with coffee and news. She set the cup on the counter with deliberate care. Her voice came flat, factual. Dimitri's finished. 2 days ago. Raphael handled it, quietly, permanently. Angelina's hands stilled on the roses she'd been arranging. Handled it how? Elena met her eyes without flinching. The way he handles things that threaten what's his. Dimitri won't be a problem again, for anyone. The weight Angelina hadn't known she'd been carrying lifted slightly. Then why hasn't he come back? Eleanor's expression softened by a fraction. Because he thinks distance keeps you safe. He's wrong. Something in Angelina's chest tightened, not fear, decision. Then I'll remind him. Anger gave her a kind of courage. She went upstairs that evening, pulled a small suitcase from the closet and packed like a woman writing a sentence. No one else would edit. When she reached the foyer, the guards shifted to block the door. Elena arrived on the second beat, heels unhurried, gaze measuring. Angelina stepped close enough to be heard and not echoed. Let me go home, please. Elena's voice stayed calm, more observation than judgment. You know you can't. Angelina moved closer, voice barely controlled. He's ignoring me. He made me fall, then disappeared. I need him to come to me. If I stay, he won't. Elena studied her a long moment. No lecture, no math, just a decision. A small tilt of her head sent the guards 3 paces back. She spoke to the air without looking away from Angelina. Taxi, and a tail at a respectful distance. Angelina breathed once, grateful and stubborn at the same time, and stepped into the night. Her old apartment had been cleaned while she wasn't looking. Stacked mail wore paid stamps like quiet apologies. The fridge hummed a steady, ordinary hum. She crossed to the window and checked the street. A black SUV idled where a neighbor's car used to fight for space. No one knocked. No one called. She showered, steam erasing the last month for the length of a song, then opened the drawer where she kept the parts of herself she hadn't used since the night everything changed. Black lace. Bare shoulders. A woman in a mirror who knew exactly what she was doing and why. She took the photo without flinching, chin lifted, eyes direct, one hand resting at her collarbone where his mouth had learned to linger. The angle showed intention. The lace showed invitation. The expression showed something more dangerous. A woman done waiting. She typed what she meant to write. Not waiting for you at the house. Contract cancelled. The message went to the number that had taught her about danger and honesty on the same day. She hit send and set the phone down on the counter. 3 minutes later, the knock arrived, firm, familiar, without hesitation. She opened the door because she had invited the storm. Raphael filled the doorway same as ever. Suit dark. Eyes steel blue, jaw rougher than the last time she'd seen it. The room changed temperature around him. His voice came low enough to carry weight. I told you you're mine. Which part confused you? She met him halfway without answering. Show me. The kiss landed like recognition, fast, deep, inevitable, and then slowed into something that burned smarter. He pressed her back against the inside of the door. Her fingers hooked his lapels and held. Breath mixed. Heat found old maps. The apartment forgot it had ever been lonely. When they finally broke for air, her forehead stayed against his. His thumb traced the damp curve of her lower lip, as if learning it again. They moved to the couch without ceremony. He shed his jacket. She pulled him down. The lace she'd chosen for strategy became permission granted. His mouth found her neck, her collarbone, the places that made her breath hitch. Her hands mapped muscle and heat beneath cotton, learning him again with touch instead of memory. When he lifted her onto his lap, she went willingly, legs bracketing his hips, silk riding high, the last distance between them dissolving under hands that knew where to go and how to ask. They came together with the urgency of people who'd been holding back too long, his body covering hers when they shifted horizontal, her legs wrapping tight, both of them gasping when he pushed inside. No slow, no careful, just heat and friction, and the sound of her saying his name like it was the only word she remembered. He moved with purpose. She met him with demand. When she shattered, it was with her nails in his shoulders and her voice breaking on a cry. He followed seconds later, groaning into her neck. Both of them riding it out tangled and breathless and too spent to pretend it hadn't been worth the wait. Later, she lay against his chest on the couch and listened to a heartbeat that never needed to brag. He looked down like a man studying the one variable he'd never solved. His words came shaped as if they cost. Control is what makes me strong. With you, I lose it. Her smile held no victory. Then stop pretending it's a weakness. He drew a breath that carried weight. I'm in love with you. It scares me. She lifted to meet his eyes fully. If you're afraid of love, you don't get to call me yours. He stood without the armor of an argument and reached for his shirt. The move hurt him. She saw it cross his face before he could hide it. He turned his back to button the shirt. The contract is over. Your debt is paid. You're free. On her cheeks, tears went warm and quiet. She inhaled, found steel where softness lived, and chose her line. Her voice steadied as she spoke. Then take my contract. I'll be yours, we'll live together. But you pull out of the worst of it. No more work that paints bullseyes on your chest. He pivoted. Surprise unguarded for once. If I don't sign? She set a hand on her stomach. Not dramatic, just true. Then our child and I disappear somewhere you'll never find. Everything in him went still. He crossed the room in 2 steps. The word failed. She nodded, crying and smiling like a person who had decided to live. Pregnant. 5 weeks. He wrapped her in both arms, and the kiss this time tasted like a vow he hadn't known he could make. His hands framed her face, then slid to her shoulders, then settled at her waist as if trying to hold every part of her at once. His mouth found her hair, her temple, the corner of her smile. You think I can let you go? I stayed away because distance looked like safety. It wasn't. I protect what's mine, you and the life you're carrying. She framed his face with both hands and closed the last inch again. Then be brave in the right direction. He rested his forehead to hers, eyes closing for a moment. I will. We do this on paper. We do this in public. And we do this with me choosing different fights. Her eyes held his. One more thing. We do this together. The word fit him like something tailored. Together. Thank you for following this story all the way to the end. Now please let me know, where's the line between protection and control in a love like this? If you were in Angelina's place, when the contract ends, would you stay with Raphael or walk away? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe. It means the world to me. Thank you.